Hey Edie, how are you today?
You know what? I'm great and it's a choice, so why not?
Well, talk to me about what do you mean it's a choice? So you don't always want to be great, or do you choose to be great?
I'm just very aware that no matter what's happening, I don't let my circumstances define me. In fact, you probably didn't watch my last virtual showcase. I did it a month ago where
Uh,
I talk about losing everything and it shows, what is it called? HGTV had my house in Holly Springs near Raleigh. They had it, they called it a mansion. That sounds so pretentious, but it was a pretty nice pad. And I went from that to homeless. I went to a
what?
stinky, yeah, I went from that to a cottage that I tore down. And then I went to a FEMA camper that literally living in a tent on the street would have been an upgrade. And I say that in my virtual showcase talk. So you'll have to show that on here too. And I talk about how I bounced back and in a relatively short period of time and bounced back well. I have one of the best views on a 500-mile lake. And just a few years ago, I was living with no flushing toilets, no running water,
Oh,
no wired.
time. We need to put this in context. You have been an international speaker. You have a house in Holly Springs, Raleigh, which is a pretty daggone good neighborhood.
It was the best in the city for many years until,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I know that because I went to East Carolina, so I know all about
Okay.
I know all about Raleigh and all that stuff. Wait a second. How did you lose this?
I tend to trust. And I did it again a couple times this year. I just gave the guy to put in turf. He said he had to have the money up front to buy the supplies and he could get them for cheaper than I could with the same supplier. And I give him 20 grand and then he doesn't show. So I've got to run after him, taking my builder to court because the house foyer fell in and I gave somebody 5 grand because somebody else owed me 60 grand in the house in Holly Springs when I was renting it and he was going to help get it back. I didn't want anybody to get hurt or anything, but he kind of acted like, and he just took it, and I didn't have a written contract, but I lost 4 to 5 million. The realtor had just gotten out of jail. He was a convicted felon, and I think I must wear a sign on my head that says "sucker" or something. And I came to North Carolina in the 90s, about 95, 4, 3, and he had just gotten out of jail. Right now, he is on the cabinet of our current governor in North Carolina. And he was a convicted felon. But if you know anything, and I love North Carolina, I love the South, but it does have the good old boys. And his daddy was a senator, so he got him pardoned from his felony. And and then he was also the reason he was in jail is because he was the mayor of Jacksonville, Camp Lejeune. And then he was the mayor of Surf City, but he was embezzling he sold insurance. So the simple way to say it is he kind of kept their premiums or kept their payments
Mhm.
and lived a nice lifestyle on it until he got caught. And I lost a lot to him, and he was supposed to save me from another guy. This is all at North Topsail near Jacksonville.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it was like every time I thought somebody was going to save me, they actually were another crook. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
And I don't know if people intend to be crooks. I think they live in denial. I think they live beyond their means and they have to find a way to pay for it. I think they justify it. I think we rationalize. And and so I don't think people sit down and say, "Oh, I'm a crook and I'm going to really mess up this woman's life." Yeah, and I
But
do
you
plan
lost your
to.
house and you were on the street.
I actually sold it at a huge loss. I lost about 1 million on that. I sold it and I didn't go into foreclosure. I've never missed a payment. And I would literally meet guys on Match.com. They would meet me once and loan me money. And no, it wasn't a barter. And it's amazing. I think one died. It was here since I moved to Lake Norman. And he loaned me about 5 grand, two in Cary, North Carolina. Mike and the other guy I don't even know. He loaned me 7, 8 grand. These are people I don't even remember writing anything on a sheet of paper with these guys. And for some reason, I am an honest person. They all got their money back. And, but I never missed a payment. I had a German Lutheran mother. You do not miss a payment. So yeah, I was just, but it amazes me when I think back because there's other people that are as trusting as I am. They just seem to trust the right people like me instead of who I trust. So I then was living here on the property I now have, and I'm told it is one of the best spots on the lake, and it is. And I was just so devoted and committed to it. And that's what I talk about, that if you really want something, if you're really determined and you have the discipline, you can have anything you want. Because I mean, the property is worth well over 2 million. And literally, it was just years ago. I didn't know how I was going to buy food for the kitties that I started feeding and became mine. And yeah, so it was a bit of a setback, but I never I was broke, but I wasn't broken. That's the difference. I never lost. I live 4 doors down from a causeway. I'm on a 3 mile island. It's pretty sweet. And every day it was and I talk about this in my showcase. It's a virtual. I'll send you the link. But every day I would just do a combination of visualization. I would do some tapping. I would do some prayer. It's my own little combo. And it took a while. It took 15 months. I was living, yeah, homeless for 15 months. But it was just an inconvenience and that's why my new keynote talk is now unstoppable. If you can't walk, dance. And I end it with pictures of people in wheelchairs who are dancing, but they can't walk. And it was an inconvenience. It wasn't like, oh, this is awful. Well, so you know what I did? You grow where you're planted. I wrote 7 books. I didn't have my stuff. It was in storage. But I had my brain and I'm very creative. I had that. So you look at what you have. And I had my laptop and I go sit on my neighbor's porch and borrow their electricity. And I wrote 7 books and one is a
And
bestseller in China. So
in the last what? In the last
huh?
couple of years?
I've been in the house now. It just is
No,
9 years.
how long did it take you to write 7 books?
I wrote them pretty fast in about 7 years.
Oh wow.
I did some 2 in a year. Yeah. Um, yeah.
Well,
I kind of
you're
spread it
holding a
up.
secret that you need to tell the world because I need part of that secret.
Really? Yeah. No, it is. It's grow where you're planted. I had to look at what I had. I had this. I had my computer. So that's where I dropped out of speaking, and I'm amping up and ramping up my keynote speaking again because I lost that time just being in a survival mode. What I did is I built a house, and I made an apartment upstairs, and I'm like, wow, this is paying for half the mortgage. And I built another one downstairs, and I'm like, this is paying my mortgage. I'm living on one of the best
You're living
spots
rent
on
free
this
now.
lake for free. I'm living here for free. I'm doing work. Doing the Airbnb vacation rentals isn't fun, but right now I got all longer term people. So that's why I'm free to talk to you and move ahead on some of this stuff again.
Cool.
And then I put in a third one. And that's just pure gravy. And now I'm not spending, I mean, they're all developed. They're full kitchens, full everything, king size beds. People are, yeah, it's great. So it's a win-win. And that's how I got off. But, now I have to shift gears. And that's how I want to do long term because there's less money in long term. If somebody comes for a weekend or a week, they're going to pay a lot more than somebody that's staying here monthly. But it frees up my time to get back speaking where I can certainly more than make up the difference. But we are creatures of habit. So it's really hard. I understand this. I have a psychotherapy background. and do a lot with neuroplasticity, neuroscience. That's what I do, brain training. And so I'm shifting, and it's hard because I found what works. So I'm getting my dopamine fix. In fact, my last TEDx talk is AI and digital dopamine making us dumb. So I'm kind of referred to as the dopamine diva. And I really am into dopamine because I am so rewarded for accomplishing things. I do work too much. I'm 80 years old and I work 14 hours a day. That's crazy. But it's not work if you do what you love. And a lot of people are kind of boring. I would rather do what I love. So I have friends and family that I delight in. And and as you get older, I think we have fewer friends, but better friends. And to tell you the truth, at my age, a lot of them have died. You don't want to date me. Oh, I was just looking the other day. All the guys I've dated or what,
Well, well,
they're
don't
dying.
tell anybody that because I'm sure there's some guys out there that still want to date you.
I
So
know you
don't
got
tell
work
them that that's a
forcing.
curse.
I know. I think it would be very dangerous. But at this age, that's more likely to happen. But yeah, so and so that goes back to my mom. And I do talk about it. It's an 8-minute video demo that I'm putting together to get back speaking. It's virtual because so many things are virtual now.
Right.
So I'll get you the link and all of your guests can watch it because in 8 minutes, it's really pretty dang good. And well, I'm a little biased, but I do refer to. So, how did I do this? And one of the things I said is my mother's mantra. And that was look at the bright side. And I don't remember her ever letting anything upset her. I mean, she had emotion. Her younger brother died, but she just seemed to accept everything and move forward. So she would always say, look at the bright side. And it's true. If I'm complaining about a cold, well, the bright side is I could have cancer. And no matter what happened, if you always look at the bright side, because we live in a world of polarity. So there's going to be two sides to everything. And too many of us focus on what is not
Mhm.
and the negative. But if you look at the bright side, you always win. Or as what Nelson Mandela said, I never lose, right? I either win or I learn. Either way, I win. And so I think that was one of the. She just had all these little cliches, but that one came to mind. Or I know she always said it's always something. Everybody's so stressed out all the time. Well, and they have homes. I literally, I mean, I had a pail from the Dollar Tree. That was my commode. Ooh, it was monogrammed because when my granddaughters came, we all put our name on the pail. So we had our own pail. I could afford $1. It was only $1 then. Now it'd be $1.25. And so
Are
I
you a
would
comedian?
find.
So you also a comedian? Because you add these things.
Well, I do. A sense of humor gets you through stuff too, doesn't it?
I
It does.
imagine it. I imagine so.
And I think I've been kind of quick-witted all my life. But you know what? That was deliberate too. I remember in 8th grade, when I wanted to get attention from the guys, I remember that I would go home and if they said something, I would think about how could I have responded in a funny, quick-witted way. So it does tell you that we can develop any trait we really want if we put some intention and effort and thought to it. But no, all her little cliches, I think I took her pretty seriously because it did get me through. But I honestly don't. I mentioned this to you the other day. My brothers and sisters too. We don't remember her ever saying a negative thing.
Wow.
I mean, she would say, "You're such a Molly Putz." I'm from Wisconsin. That was everybody was a Molly Putz when they did something dumb. But she didn't say it in a negative way. She said it more like amusing. You're such a Molly Putz with a smile. So it was like, it's okay. You do dumb things, but we all do. You know what I mean?
And
So
then
it's the
Nelson
voice.
Mandela says it's a learning experience.
Exactly. exactly. So, and I thought, well, maybe I'm delusional, but I did check with my siblings. And my one brother, well, he burnt down the trailer and he ran one of the trucks into the dealership. We had a car dealership. So he did some things where any parent might be upset. I think he said she did get angry with him, but I don't even remember getting angry.
Wow.
I don't remember seeing her angry. Is this incredible? And it wasn't that she didn't say her piece. She's a German Lutheran. She told it like it was. But it's so it so I guess what I was telling you the other day, there's so many seminars that say, oh, you got to get rid of your old tapes and you got to get rid of, the messages you grew up with in childhood. Well, there are exceptions. And I'm not rubbing it in because as a psychotherapist, I've dealt with those people that do have tapes that have to be deleted. But we have to realize that, yes, you can have positive tapes that they're really, we can grow from and learn from, and we don't want to delete.
I love that.
Yeah.
So I think one of them that we talked about was one of the keys to your success is always ask.
That was the other thing my mother always said. I think
Yeah.
that is the thing that she's, because you said the other day, I said, and for those of you, Keith and I just met each other and are looking to work together on some projects. And I said, I'm in conversation with, what's his name, LeBron James. And Keith says, well, how did you get that connection?
How did you get that connection is right.
I just called him. And he said, well, do you sell them? I say, no, I just want to talk. And you know what? Everything starts with a conversation, which is why I think so many adolescents and people growing up today, they don't, they're on this
Yeah.
instead of really knowing how to ask and to converse. But that was probably the number one thing my mother said: ask. They can always say no. And what did I say? This was very spontaneous to all of you who are listening. Keith said, I just want to talk to you one on one a little bit because we had a group yesterday. And all of a sudden he said, can I record you? Can we do this? And I'm like, I got to get my earrings on. I don't have to have underwear, but I got to have my earrings on. But I, she always said, ask. They can
You
only say
realize this is
no.
being taped, right? This is going to
Yeah,
go on
yeah,
you.
but the underwear isn't a four-letter word. It's just it's apparel. It's clothing. It's the cloth.
You're the best guest I've ever had.
But we're having fun, and that's why when Keith said, I said, well, I got lipstick on. Sure, we'll do it. And I am a big proponent of spontaneity. And I said, yeah, I can be spontaneous. So we're just winging it here, and we're having a blast. Probably more fun because we're not reading any scripts. Sometimes you just got to get rid of the script and go with it. But I am a student of J.L. Moreno, the father of psychodrama, and that is all about spontaneity. And I really believe that's the highest quality that any of us can have. It beats IQ or anything else because spontaneity, and this goes back to living homeless and recovering. Spontaneity is a new response to an old situation, or it could be a new situation as well. It's coping, adapting, and bending to whatever is and going with it. It's going with the flow and overcoming and recovering and being better than you ever were. So spontaneity is, yeah, cookies do crumble, nylons run. Well, now I'm giving my age away. Nobody wears nylons anymore. But, yeah, tires go flat. Things are going to happen. But the more spontaneous you can be, and that's why a lot of my speaking to corporations is creative problem solving. And that's what we need. We need it in the workplace. We need it for our own personal recovery and survival, which brings me to something. I think in the TED Talk, I left it out. We only have 18 minutes. But there was a
You
situation
know
years
that's
ago.
down
I
to
lived in,
12, right?
what was that?
The TED down is down to 12 minutes.
When I did it, it was still 18, but I actually did it in 17 and a half because I panicked. But I went 3 minutes over on my first TED Talk, so I figure I'm mitigating it a little bit. But there was something when I was living in Wisconsin. I think this happened back 80s maybe. listen to this. It was a big truckers strike. And there were materials in Chicago, Illinois that had to get to Indiana, had to get to Indianapolis. But what was happening, the truckers that were striking were with guns blowing out tires. So the truckers that were not, that were showing up for work couldn't get anywhere because the tires would be blown out. And so they were like, look, we have got, I don't know if it was a medical situation or what, life and death, it could have been. We got to get this stuff down there. So this is what I mean about being creative. You don't have to be a Picasso. You don't have to be a poet. You have to be a creative problem solver, because life will have it, whether it's in your marriage, your relationships, your job with your boss, your employees, whatever. And the more spontaneous and creative and innovative you can be, the more freedom and joy you're going to have. So what they did, listen to this. They put a guy in a nun's, what are they called? Habit.
Mm-hmm.
The nun, remember the
Mm-hmm.
Catholic nuns? Okay. They put a guy in the habit, put him on a school bus, loaded up the school bus. Nobody's going to shoot at a school bus
Or none,
with
I
a
hope.
nun driving it. Nobody's
Yeah.
going to do. And if you're Catholic, you better not, because boy, that's more than a cardinal sin. I'll tell you that. You're going to be talking to the Pope. But anyway, that is the kind of spontaneity and creative problem solving that I talk about with corporations, because that's survival. And that gets us from surviving to thriving. It really does. And it's how you can set it, it gives you the competitive advantage.
So
So, but
can I ask you a question real
yep.
quick?
Mm-hmm.
So what was the one thing, that next thing that got you quite literally off the street? Because you said you said you were in a tent, basically.
Yeah, yeah, that would have been an upgrade.
Okay, that would have
That
been
would have
an
been accurate.
upgrade.
But you know what? You know why I never felt bad either? Because this rusted out FEMA trailer that smelled like a 1950s smoke filled bar. Remember those days?
No, I don't.
And it was awful. It was awful. So I am in North Carolina, so most of the year it's pretty decent warm. But I remember there was a post. I had 50 million extension cords going to that post. So I was sitting by the water writing these books. And you know what? They were the happiest days of my life. I had
So,
nothing. I did not have a flushing toilet, but I had what I wanted. So that's why I tell people, you got to know what you want. And I had it.
hmm.
I had the income. I would bathe in the lake. I'd show up for a keynote looking like $1 million, and I was bathing in a dirty lake here. Or I had a fry pan because I had one quart. I would heat up water in a fry pan, and I'm not that large, so I can fit in one of those Rubbermaid tubs where you store Christmas decorations. Now, would it have been nice to have a regular tub? Yeah, but your great grandparents, my great grandparents didn't have a flushing toilet. They had outhouses and they had Sears catalogs and milkweeds to do the rest. So come on, I can do it too. So
It's
going back to what was your question again, Keith?
it was really, what was that one thing that got you off the street? What
Uh,
happened that
oh,
you
you know
did?
what it was? Okay, so glad you asked. Good question.
I am known as the question guy.
Yeah, you're not going to believe this. Oh my God. This is a really good interview, and we decided on it 10 seconds before you hit record. And I'm here in my sweatshirt. I could be in my pajamas, so it could be worse, right?
Well, next time,
Yeah, yeah, no, this is good. So anyway, people aren't here for my sweatshirt. They're here for my inspiration, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You're not going to believe this. It took me 15 months. And that's why I wasn't, working on trying to speak or anything. I wanted this property. And so I just spent I just morning, noon, and night. I had to find a way to get it. So anyway, listen to this. My son's friend, I would consider him my best friend, had a perfect credit score. I made him, you're not going to believe this. I made him the CFO of my LLC. And we, in like 12 hours, you got to do it fast, because if banks know that you're getting credit cards, if Bank of America knows you're getting a credit card from Wells Fargo and Banco and everything else, they get nervous. So within a matter of hours, we got about a dozen business credit cards. I bought this house, and I can honestly say, because I'm looking at what's going on around me, it's well over 2 million. I bought a house of that magnitude on credit cards. Is that crazy?
No, that's impossible. That's not even crazy.
It's crazy. It worked. So I got hundreds of thousands of dollars on business credit cards because he had a perfect credit score. That guy, I cannot thank him enough. I mean, he was taking a risk, but
A
I
big
guess,
risk.
yeah. But he trusted Tori, my son, and more probably Tori, and because he knew him better. But anyway, we got the money. Listen to this. And before the interest was due, I got the money, finished the house, and then got a HELOC, a home equity line of credit, drawing against the house, got a couple $100,000 on that. That then paid off the credit cards before the interest was due. That's what I mean by creative, everyday problem solving. It works. Isn't that crazy?
Not so much crazy, but
It's out of the
you know,
box thinking, but
it's
it
out of the
works.
box thinking, absolutely. But if you don't know that that's possible or capable, you wouldn't, any normal person, not that you're not normal, wouldn't know to do that.
Yeah. Well, I didn't either.
Okay.
It took, I think in that 15 months, I would make enough calls to, these sharks, loan sharks, independent people. One of them was my neighbor. And a lot of them, they're not necessarily scammers, but I think they feed off the circumstances of people that maybe in an yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you talk to enough of them, you start learning again. You win either way, because if nothing else, I was learning. And it was really an evolution. It wasn't like a light bulb thing. Oh, I'll buy my house on credit cards. It was more, I think the last guy I spoke with was in Asheville, North Carolina. I just kind of remember something sparked. If you talk to enough people, and this is what I mean, that I'm concerned when people are too much on their phones and they're not talking, they're scrolling. That if you talk to enough people, the answer will come. It really will. Because if they may not give you the answer, but it'll trigger the reticular activating system in your brain. That's a retrieval system. And it'll be there. It will be there.
Cool. Well, then I
Yeah.
must be on the right track because I talk to people all the time,
Yeah. No,
including you.
yes. And on the plane, I know that my daughter-in-law, it drives her nuts because I'll go in a restaurant and I'll talk to the people around me or here and there. And I don't know why it bothers her, because they're not bothered by it. I mean, if they are, I'm smart enough to know to shut up. You can tell when people are irritated with you. But I have gotten speaking gigs by just talking to the person on the plane. You know what I mean? And we all get on the plane and we don't want somebody that's just talking. But if it's really interesting and it's reciprocal, and it can lead to, so everything is an opportunity. And I always say, in fact, it's a chapter in one of my anthologies. I also wrote 15 anthologies during that time period. And so I'll send you a copy of this chapter I really like in one of them. I remember which one it is. And I don't think I even bought one copy of the book that this is in. But I'll tell you what the chapter is. When opportunity knocks, do you open the door or do you complain about the noise? And everything we're talking about comes down to, what is your perception of the reality that you are experiencing? Is it an opportunity or are you annoyed and do you shut it out? At the time that transformation was knocking at your door.
Can I
That's it.
consider this conversation an opportunity?
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, yeah. And hopefully your listeners do too, because, it's like Roger Bannister, right? Remember, Roger Bannister was the guy that did the 3 minute, wait, the 1 mile in 3 minutes. Do you remember that in 1955 in the Olympics?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And it had never been
An
done.
under 4 minute mile. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Was that what it was? Yeah. Yeah. And so it's breaking that barrier. After Roger did that and he broke that belief system that you can't do that, my cats,
I see.
um, I fed them. So now I've got a herd of white cats. After Roger did that, it changed everybody's belief system. Do you know how many people have done it since? It's a long
No, but
list.
it's the list is getting longer.
It's long. It's
Yeah.
long. So if you're a trailblazer, blazer, whatever, yeah, break it. Just create a new belief system,
Well, I want to get
and
on the
any
stage.
and anything is possible. I've
I
got
want
a
to be a
sign right.
speaker like you.
Okay.
I want to do that. So I need to do something different because what I'm doing isn't getting me there. But
Okay. Yeah. No. Well, that's the first step. It's what I said. You got to be clear on what you want. And then number two, you got to reach out to people that may be doing what you want
mhm.
and get their advice. Because even though I am a CSP, certified speaking professional, that's the top mark of excellence given by the National Speakers Association, I'm still learning because it's changed. The way I used to get gigs before all this happened, I just get on the phone, ask, make a few calls, and I'd book it. So after the books, and I'm like, oh, I'll get back to speaking. And it wasn't working.
You
So,
mean
like
before and
all,
after COVID, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And no, this was a long time ago because this was way back. Yeah, when I was wanting to get back on and it wasn't working. So I really kind of disappointed in myself. I kind of just quit. It's like, oh, this isn't working anymore. How many of us do that? Well, this isn't working. I just hypnotized someone to quit smoking the other day. She said it didn't work. And about
What, what,
85%.
what? You're a hypnotist?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do brain training. I reset people's brains. Been
That's
talking to the
another
kiddo.
com that's
That'll be
another
another topic.
conversation.
Yeah, we'll do that. And when she wrote, it didn't work. That's the wrong attitude. No, I'm 30%. The technique is 30%. You're 100%. If you want to change a habit, so what I'm doing, focusing a lot on is being a habit hacker. And whether it's smoking or weight or chocolates or drinking or whatever, or if it's, anxiety, they're going to fight on us.
That's a beautiful cat.
Is it? Um, but yeah, we don't realize that worry is a habit. Worry is a wish you don't want. Fear is negative goal setting. And anxiety, we have to realize that we're choosing this. Once we name it, we can claim it, and then we can change it. You know what I mean? Name it, claim it, change it.
Wow.
But until we take that first step, but yeah, I would like to do another program on how we can reset our brain. But if you have the attitude of it didn't work, no, you got to make things happen. You're the maestro. I call myself the maestro of motivation. It's like conducting a symphony. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And you got to know when you want the tuba. You want to know how you can make harmony, how you can be disruptive. And in fact, I was listening to, where was this? It was recent. Oh, it was a Christmas concert. And they were playing Oh Holy Night, my favorite Christmas. Sorry for the cat.
Oh,
And they
cat's
were
beautiful.
playing my favorite Oh Holy Night, and I loved it. But they were playing it kind of on the black keys. It was the minor. And that is, would you get out of here? Actually, this cat is very much a survivor. My neighbor took and caged him and fed him to the coyotes. Fed, fed
That,
this guy. Come on now. Fed the guy to the coyotes, and he survived. He was found 7 miles away, and he survived the coyotes. So I do learn a lot from him as well. So he just does it his own way. But anyway, what was I saying before the cat disrupted us?
The Christmas song.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was in the minor, and
Yeah.
I only play in the major keys. I like harmony, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And then I thought, no, they're going to shift, and they did. And that's good music. You hit on what hurts and the challenges, and then the rainbow comes out. There's relief, and you shift it. And all of our life is that way. But we're the ones that have to shift. We hold that shifting gear in our hands,
Hmm.
and you got to know when to shift and when to let go. And it's like I've got to let go of the vacation rentals. I've got them here. I'll still do them, but it's scary because I am rewarded by the dopamine. It got me. It saved me, and now I am going to abandon it. And that's how life is. Whether it's a bad relationship, a bad marriage, a bad job, or whatever,
You
it's
gotta,
sometimes very hard to let go because it it has rewarded us in ways.
yeah. It,
And so we almost have to get enough reward on the other side. But that often can't happen. It's like a trapeze. You got to let go of that bar and grab onto the next one. But until we get our hands on that next bar to feel some sense of safety, it's hard to let go of what we've been hanging on to over here. Does that make sense?
it makes perfect sense. And
And so I'm going to add one more thing to that,
okay.
and that is vision. That is, John Azaraf talks about the vision board and so forth. Putting. Do you know the story with his vision board?
I know
Everybody
a
talks
bit.
about
I know a little
a
bit.
little, yeah. And John, John really started that. Now everybody talks about vision board. I love John, but do you know that he had a vision board and he had a certain house? He's out in California. He had a certain house. This is spooky. He had a certain house on that vision board.
Mm.
He years later, he's unpacking his stuff and he comes up with his vision board. He had bought the house, the exact house that was on his vision board. What the mind sees, the body believes. So to get us to that next rung on the ladder, that next step, the next bar in the trapeze, you've got to, walk by faith, not by sight. You have to have the vision because that gives you the hope, that gives you the inspiration and the belief to take the steps necessary to transform and make change happen. That's it.
That's it. That is beautiful. I loved it. So we gotta have.
I do too. You would almost think this was from a script, and I got none.
I don't use scripts anymore.
No, no.
This was beautiful. But the next time we do this, can we do this in our pajamas? Because you mentioned that earlier.
What color do you want?
Well, I
We
want
won't
the
do pink pajamas. I got a lot of flannels.
I got green. I got a green pajamas.
We'll do it in our pajamas because the world is full of transparency now. We're going to be transparent. No makeup, flannel pajamas, but I got to have my earrings. That I have to be allowed.
Totally acceptable. Totally acceptable. But look, I've got to jump off this call because I got to talk to somebody about a book I want to write. Um, at least a revision of the book I already have. And so if
Yeah.
we could kind of do this again,
Yes.
I would I would love it. But
Yeah. And,
you need
and
to
we could
send me,
talk about mind mastery, how to reset and rejuvenate. Yeah.
well, you need to tell me how to get on the stage.
Yeah. Well, what I talk about in the next one, I'll give you the things that you have to do, at least in your mind. Then it obviously has to go into some action steps.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll do it. I'm ready.
Cool.
And thanks to all of you who have listened. Share it. And I'm going to share the links with you of the 2 TEDx talks and the virtual 8-minute showcase so that everybody can kind of have something for them.
Are you able to do that today, or do I need to wait for that?
I
Because
can
I would
send
like to
it.
get this, I would like to like edit this, make sure it gets on YouTube.
I'll
Um,
send it in 1 minute. It's all on one page. I'm getting organized in my old age. Yeah, it's all the three links are on one page.
okay.
I'll send
Edie,
it.
thank you so much. I'll talk to you later.
Take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye
Or
bye.
are we off already?